The transport shuttle docked with the Galactic Council station without ceremony.
Okay.
Inside, Kang Taman adjusted his tie and looked out at the massive structure through the viewport. The station was enormous, a city floating in space that housed representatives from hundreds of alien species. He had seen bigger things in his lifetime, but this was still impressive. "Sir, we're cleared for disembarkation," said Lee Hanna, his young attaché. She looked nervous, her hands gripping her datapad too tightly. This was her first major assignment, and Taman could see the weight of it on her shoulders. "Relax," Taman said with a gentle smile. "They're just politicians. We've handled worse." Hanna nodded, though she didn't look convinced. She had read the briefing files. The Galactic Council had made it clear that humanity was barely welcome here. Earth had been granted observer status only because ignoring humans was becoming impossible. But respect? That was something humanity would have to earn, and the odds weren't good. They walked down the ramp together. The docking bay was huge, with aliens of every imaginable shape and size moving about their business. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated. Some slithered. A few defied easy description. Taman kept his expression pleasant and neutral. The perfect mask of a career diplomat. Their welcoming committee consisted of a single low-level bureaucrat, a being that looked like a walking mushroom with too many eyes. It handed them identification badges without a word and pointed toward a distant corridor. No formal greeting, no escort. The message was clear enough. "They're making a point," Hanna whispered as they walked. "Yes," Taman agreed. "Let them." The corridors of the station were clean and efficient, but cold. They passed groups of aliens who stopped their conversations to stare at the humans. Some looks were curious. Others were hostile. Taman met each gaze calmly, nodding politely before moving on. He had learned long ago that fear and anger were just different faces of the same emotion. Their quarters were small and located in a section of the station reserved for minor delegations. The rooms were functional but sparse. Taman set down his single bag and looked around. He had lived in worse places. Much worse. "This is insulting," Hanna said, her cheeks flushed with anger. "We represent an entire planet and they put us in storage rooms." "It's a test," Taman said. He opened his bag and began unpacking with methodical care. "They want to see if we'll complain, if we'll demand better treatment, if we'll act like entitled newcomers, and we won't? No." Taman hung up his spare suit in the closet. "We'll accept what they give us with grace. That's how you earn respect, Hanna. Not by demanding it, but by showing you don't need their approval to have dignity." Hanna watched him unpack. Her superior was an older man, maybe 50, with gray hair at his temples and smile lines around his eyes. He moved with careful precision, every motion deliberate. She had wondered why Earth Command had chosen such a mild-mannered diplomat for this crucial mission. The council was hostile. They needed someone strong, someone who could push back. Instead, they got Kang Taman, who looked like someone's kind uncle. The formal introduction to the council was scheduled for the next day, but Taman spent the evening walking the station. Hanna accompanied him, still nervous, still watching every alien with suspicion. Taman seemed completely at ease, stopping to examine shops and observation decks like a tourist. "You're not worried?" Hanna finally asked. "About what?" "About tomorrow. About the council. Sir, they hate us. The reports made that clear." Taman stopped at a viewport that showed the stars beyond. "They don't hate us, Hanna, they fear us. Humans fought 3 world wars before we figured out peace. We nearly destroyed our own planet twice. We have weapons that terrify them. And we've only been in space for 100 years. To them, we're dangerous children playing with matches. So what do? We show them we've grown up." He turned to face her, and for just a moment, Hanna saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Something cold and ancient and very, very dangerous. Then he smiled, and it was gone. "We show them that humans can be civilized. That we choose peace not because we're weak, but because we're wise." They returned to their quarters. Hanna went to her room, but sleep didn't come easily. She kept thinking about that look in Taman's eyes. She pulled out her datapad and accessed his personnel file. Most of it was standard information. Age 52. 20 years in diplomatic service. Excellent ratings. Fluent in 12 languages, but there were gaps. His records before joining the diplomatic corps were heavily redacted. Just a note that said military service, classified. Hanna frowned. That was strange. Diplomatic personnel usually had transparent backgrounds. She tried accessing deeper files, but her clearance wasn't high enough. Whatever Kang Taman had done before becoming a diplomat, Earth Command didn't want people knowing about it. In his quarters, Taman prepared for bed with the same methodical care he did everything. He hung his suit carefully, making sure there were no wrinkles. He set his shoes by the door, aligned perfectly. He placed his watch on the nightstand face up. Then he removed his shirt. His torso was covered in scars. Not the neat surgical kind, but the rough, jagged marks of old wounds, burns, cuts, impact craters from bullets that body armor had barely stopped. A tattoo stretched across his back, faded but still visible. Latin words in bold script. Tamin looked at himself in the mirror. He saw an old soldier wearing a diplomat's face. He had worked hard to become that diplomat, to leave the other man behind. But he knew the truth. You could take the soldier off the battlefield, but the battlefield never really left the soldier. He touched one of the scars, a particularly nasty one across his ribs. Europa, the colony wars. A lifetime ago or so it felt. He had been someone else then, someone with a different name, or at least a different reputation. They had called him the Ghost, not because he was hard to see, but because by the time you saw him you were already dead. Taman shook his head and pulled on his sleeping clothes. That was the past. He was a diplomat now. He had spent 2 decades learning patience, learning words instead of weapons, learning to build instead of destroy. But old skills never really faded. They just waited. He lay down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow he would meet the Galactic Council. Tomorrow he would smile and speak softly and do everything a good diplomat should do. He would represent humanity with grace and dignity. He would give peace every possible chance, and if peace failed, well, the Council would learn what humans did when pushed too far. Taman fell asleep thinking about tomorrow, about the negotiations ahead, about the careful dance of diplomacy. But his dreams were full of older memories, of ships burning in the void, of enemies who had underestimated humanity, of lessons learned in blood and fire. The Galactic Council was about to learn one of those lessons, they just didn't know it yet. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. It rose in tiers like an ancient amphitheater, with seats for hundreds of delegates arranged in a circle. At the center stood a small platform, where those addressing the council were expected to stand alone, surrounded by judgment from every direction. Taman stood on that platform now, hands clasped behind his back, expression calm. Above him, Ambassador Vrexthal of the Draxian Empire leaned forward in his seat. The reptilian alien was massive, covered in dark scales that gleamed under the chamber lights. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and when he spoke, rows of sharp teeth showed. The human delegation wishes to petition for expanded trade rights, Vrexthal said, his voice dripping with contempt. They wish to claim territory in systems that have been neutral for thousands of years. They wish to be treated as equals. He paused, looking around at the other delegates. I find this amusing. Laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. Not all of the delegates joined in, but enough did. Taman didn't react. He simply waited, patient as stone. Humanity has been in space for barely a century, Vrexthal continued. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times with their primitive weapons. They wage war on their own kind with disturbing regularity. And now they come here, asking us to welcome them as partners. He fixed his yellow eyes on Taman. Tell me, diplomat, why should we grant you anything? Taman took a breath before answering, his voice steady and clear. Because we're here, because we're not going away, because working together benefits everyone and conflict benefits no one. He looked up at the tiers of seats, meeting the eyes of various delegates. Humanity has made mistakes. We don't deny that. But we've learned from them. We're asking for a chance to prove we can be good neighbors. Good neighbors don't threaten their way into the neighborhood, said another voice. This came from a delegate that looked like a floating jellyfish, its tentacles waving in agitation. Your fleet movements near the Proxima systems are considered hostile by many here. Those systems are unclaimed, Taman replied. We're establishing colonies in empty territory. If anyone has prior claim, we'll negotiate. But so far, every inquiry we've made has been ignored or rejected without explanation. Perhaps that should tell you something, Vrexthal said coldly. The Council does not want humanity expanding. We have seen species like yours before. Aggressive, territorial, violent. They always cause problems. Hana, sitting in the small observer section, felt her fists clench. This wasn't negotiation. This was humiliation. They had no intention of taking humanity seriously. Beside her, Choi Minho, their security chief, looked equally angry. He had wanted to bring more guards, but Taemin had refused, saying it would look aggressive. The session dragged on for hours. Every point Taemin made was dismissed. Every offer of compromise was rejected. By the end, it was clear the council had already made their decision. Humanity would remain observer status. No trade rights. No territory. No respect. This session is concluded, Frexthal finally announced. The human delegation may remain on the station, but their petition is denied. We will reconvene in 3 days to discuss other matters. Taemin bowed slightly, still calm, and stepped down from the platform. Hana met him at the chamber entrance. Sir, that was expected, Taemin said quietly. Come, we have work to do. They walked back through the station corridors. Taemin was reviewing notes on his datapad, already planning the next approach. Hana was fuming silently. Minho walked behind them, alert for any trouble. The trouble came from a side corridor. Diplomat Kang, a deep voice called. They turned to see Commander Thule approaching, flanked by 4 other aliens in security uniforms. Thule was massive even by station standards, an insectoid creature with 4 arms and chitinous armor covering his body. You are to come with us. For what purpose? Taemin asked, his tone still polite. Questions about certain human activities that violate council regulations. I'm happy to answer questions. In a formal setting with proper documentation. Thule moved closer. This is not a request, human. Hana stepped forward. You can't just detain a diplomatic representative without... One of Thule's guards grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Not gently. Minho immediately moved to help her, but 2 more guards blocked his path. Taemin held up one hand. Let them go. I'll go with Commander Thule. He looked at the insectoid warrior. Lead the way. They walked deeper into the station, away from the main corridors. Hana struggled against the guard holding her, but couldn't break free. Minho was shouting about diplomatic immunity, about violations of council law, but no one was listening. Finally, Thule stopped in a maintenance area. Empty, no cameras. No witnesses, this is far enough, Thule said. He turned to face Taemin, and now there was no pretense of civility. You humans need to learn your place. The council has decided you're too dangerous to let expand, so we're going to send a message. One of the guards produced a syringe filled with glowing blue liquid. This will make you compliant. You'll return to Earth and tell your leaders that coming here was a mistake. You'll recommend humanity withdraw from council space entirely. Taemin looked at the syringe, then back at Thule. His expression hadn't changed. Still calm. Still that gentle smile. And if I refuse? Then you'll have an unfortunate accident. Diplomatic missions can be dangerous after all. Hana was screaming now, fighting harder. Minho was trying to break through the guards. But there were too many, and they were too strong. The guard with the syringe moved toward Taemin. What happened next took less than 7 seconds. Taemin's hand moved in a blur. He caught the guard's wrist, twisted, and there was a sharp crack as bone broke. The syringe fell. Before it hit the ground, Taemin had already turned, his elbow striking Thule in what passed for the creature's throat.
Nothing.
The massive insectoid staggered back, choking. A guard released Hana and lunged at Taemin. The diplomat sidestepped smoothly, using the guard's momentum to send him crashing into a wall. Another guard attacked from behind. Taemin dropped low, swept the legs, and the guard fell hard. The last guard holding Minho released him and drew a weapon, some kind of energy pistol. Taemin moved before the guard could aim, closing the distance in 2 steps. His hand struck precisely at a nerve cluster and the guard went limp, unconscious before hitting the floor. Thule had recovered enough to charge, all 4 arms reaching. Taemin moved like water, flowing around the attack and struck twice. Once at a joint, once at another nerve point. Thule crashed down, alive but unable to move. The whole thing had taken 7 seconds, maybe 8. Taemin straightened his tie and adjusted his jacket. He wasn't even breathing hard. The gentle smile was gone now, replaced by something cold and calculating. You're going to report this as a misunderstanding, Taemin said quietly, looking down at Thule. A training accident. Security personnel injured during exercises. Do you understand? Thule couldn't speak, but his eyes showed fear for the first time. Good. Taemin turned to Hana and Minho. Both were staring at him like they'd never seen him before. We're leaving. Stay close. They walked back through the station. Taemin's hands were steady. His expression had returned to its usual calm mask. But Hana noticed something different now. The way he moved. The way his eyes tracked every person they passed, calculating threats, marking exits. This wasn't a diplomat who got lucky. This was a soldier who had never stopped being a soldier. Back in their quarters, Minho immediately checked for surveillance devices while Hana locked the door. Taemin sat down and poured himself water with steady hands. Sir, Hana finally said, her voice shaking. What was that? That was the council showing their true intentions, Taemin replied calmly. They won't negotiate with us. They'll try to intimidate us. And when intimidation fails, they'll try force. What you did. How you... I had military training before joining diplomatic service. Basic self-defense. Nothing special. That was a lie. Hana knew it. Minho knew it. And from the way Taemin met their eyes, he knew they knew. We need to call for backup, Minho said. Request extraction. This situation is... No, Taemin said firmly. We came here to negotiate. That hasn't changed. They just tried to kidnap you. And failed. Taemin stood up. Tomorrow I'm going to request an emergency council session. I'm going to present evidence of what happened. And I'm going to give them one more chance to deal with us honestly. And if they refuse, Taemin walked to the window looking out at the stars. Then they'll learn something about humanity that I was hoping they wouldn't have to learn. Hana wanted to ask what he meant, but looking at his reflection in the glass, at the cold determination in his eyes, she decided she already knew. The council had made a terrible mistake today. They had awakened something that should have stayed asleep.
No.
Hana couldn't sleep. She lay in her quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying the attack over and over in her mind. 7 seconds. That's all it had taken for Kang Taemin to disable 5 trained security personnel. His movements hadn't been lucky or desperate. They had been precise, efficient, practiced. She pulled out her datapad and accessed Taemin's personnel file again. The redacted sections bothered her more now. Whatever Earth Command was hiding about their diplomat, it was something significant. She needed to know who she was really working for. Her datapad chimed softly. An anonymous message. Looking for information about Kang Taemin? I can help. For a price. Hana's first instinct was to delete it. Security protocols warned against unknown contacts. But her curiosity won. She typed back, what price? Small. Just promise that when humanity gets what it wants from the council, you'll remember who helped you. I'm a collector of favors. Who are you? Call me the broker. I deal in information. And I know things about your diplomat that even he thinks are buried. Hana hesitated. This could be a trap. But she needed to understand what was happening. What do you know? Not here. Meet me at Observation Deck 7 in 1 hour. Come alone. Against her better judgment, Hana agreed. Observation Deck 7 was nearly empty at this hour. A few aliens sat in meditation before the viewport, watching the stars. Hana found a figure in a hooded cloak waiting in a corner. She couldn't see the species beneath. You came, the broker said. The voice was neutral, processed through a translator that removed all identifying features. Smart, you need to know the truth. What truth? That Kang Taemin is not just a diplomat. He's a weapon. Perhaps the most dangerous weapon humanity has ever created. The broker pulled out a datapad and slid it across the table. Before he joined diplomatic service, he had another name. They called him the Ghost of Europa. Hana looked at the screen. Files appeared. Military records. Mission reports. Body counts. Her hands started shaking. 20 years ago, humanity had colony wars, the broker continued. Different factions fighting for control of the outer planets. It was brutal. Millions died, and right in the middle of it was Kang Taemin, though he went by different names then. The records showed missions across the solar system. Europa, Titan, the asteroid belt. Everywhere Taemin went, enemy strongholds fell. Resistance movements collapsed. Leaders disappeared in the night. 847 confirmed eliminations. Hana whispered, reading the number. That can't be right. Those are only the confirmed ones. The real number is probably much higher. He was special operations, the kind they send when war has to be ended quickly and quietly. The broker leaned forward. He ended the colony wars almost single-handedly. made it so expensive and terrifying to fight that everyone chose peace instead. Why are you telling me this? Because the council doesn't know. They think humans are dangerous in theory. They don't know they've actually attacked someone who could kill everyone on this station if he wanted to. The broker stood up. What happens next depends on choices made in the next few days. I want you to understand what's at stake. The figure left. Hana sat alone with a datapad scrolling through missions. Each one was more disturbing than the last. Taman had been thorough, efficient, and absolutely merciless when necessary. He had done things that made her stomach turn. But the reports also showed restraint. He took prisoners when possible. He avoided civilian casualties. He offered surrender terms before attacking. He was brutal, yes, but not cruel. There was a difference. She found a psychological evaluation from after the wars. Subject shows signs of severe trauma. Recommended for rehabilitation program. Suggest transition to non-combat role. Subject has expressed desire to atone for actions during wartime. So they had made him a diplomat. Someone who built peace instead of enforcing it. Someone who used words instead of weapons. For 20 years it had worked. Taman had become genuinely skilled at negotiation, genuinely committed to peaceful solutions, until the council had pushed him too far. Hana returned to their quarters to find Minho pacing nervously. "Where were you?" "Learning the truth." She showed him the datapad. Minho's eyes widened as he read. "This is classified beyond anything we should have access to." "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter? Look at it." "Our diplomat is actually—" "I know," Minho interrupted. "I've known since we left Earth." Hana stared at him. "You knew? And you didn't tell me?" "Need to know basis. My job is to protect this delegation, which means knowing who I'm protecting." Minho sat down heavily. Command chose him specifically for this mission. They knew the council might be hostile. They wanted someone who could handle himself if things went wrong. "They set this up," Hana said, understanding dawning. "They sent the ghost to the Galactic Council knowing he might have to be the ghost again. Maybe. Or maybe they hoped his reputation would never matter. That he could solve everything with diplomacy." Minho rubbed his face. "But now the council has attacked him. They've shown they won't negotiate honestly, and command is waiting to see what happens next." In his quarters, Taman sat on the floor in meditation. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and controlled. He was trying to find the calm center that had taken him years to develop. The place where the diplomat lived, not the soldier. It was getting harder to find that place. The attack had awakened old instincts, old reflexes, the part of him that calculated threats and planned responses, the part that had kept him alive through countless battles. He had worked so hard to bury that part of himself, to become someone new. But maybe he had been fooling himself. Maybe you couldn't really change. Maybe the soldier was always there, just waiting beneath the surface. His datapad chimed. A message from Earth Command on encrypted channels. He read it twice, his expression hardening. New intelligence suggests Council has decided on aggressive response to human expansion. Recommend you request extraction. Fleet can reach your position in 48 hours. Taman typed a reply. Extraction not required. We'll handle situation. The response came quickly. Clarify handling parameters. Are you requesting authorization for escalated response? Taman stared at the message for a long moment. They were asking if he needed permission to be what he used to be. If the diplomat had failed, was the soldier authorized to take over? He typed, negative. We'll continue diplomatic approach. We'll advise if situation changes. But even as he sent it, he knew the truth. The situation had already changed. The council had declared war, even if they didn't realize it yet. They had shown they would use force and deception to keep humanity suppressed, and humanity didn't respond well to suppression. Morning came. Taman dressed in his diplomatic suit, checked his appearance in the mirror, and prepared for another day of negotiation. But he also checked the location of every security station on the station. Memorized patrol patterns, identified choke points and escape routes. The diplomat was going to try. The soldier was going to be ready. Hana met him outside his quarters. She looked like she hadn't slept. "Sir, I need to ask you something." "I know what you're going to ask," Taman said quietly. "Yes, the reports you found are true. Yes, I did those things. And yes, I've spent 20 years trying to be someone different. Can you be someone different, I mean?" Taman considered the question. "I don't know anymore.
Okay, cool.
I thought I could. But maybe we don't get to choose who we are. Maybe we only get to choose what we do with it. What are you going to do? I'm going to request an emergency council session. I'm going to present evidence of their attack. I'm going to give them every chance to do the right thing. He looked at her directly. And if they refuse, I'm going to make sure they regret underestimating humanity. They walked to the council chamber. Word had spread about the incident with Thule, though the official report called it a training accident. Delegates watched Taman differently now, less contemptuous, more wary. Rexthal sat in his seat, yellow eyes tracking Taman's approach. The reptilian ambassador looked almost amused. The human wishes to address us again, Rexthal said. How fortunate. We were just discussing your people. Taman stood on the central platform. I'm here to report an attack on the human delegation by Council security forces. I have evidence. We've reviewed the incident, Rexthal interrupted. A regrettable training accident. Commander Thule has been reprimanded. The matter is closed. It wasn't an accident. It was attempted kidnapping and coercion. Can you prove this? Rexthal leaned forward. Do you have recordings? Witnesses willing to testify? No. Then you have only accusations. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. Others nodded agreement with Rexthal. Taman took a breath. This was the moment. He could push harder, could threaten, could let the soldiers show, or he could try once more with words. The Galactic Council was founded on principles of cooperation and mutual respect, Taman said, his voice carrying through the chamber. Those principles only work when everyone follows them. Humanity came here in good faith, seeking partnership. We've been met with hostility, rejection, and now violence. I'm asking the Council one more time. Will you negotiate with us honestly? Will you give humanity a fair chance? Or will you continue down this path? The chamber was silent. Rexthal stared at Taman and something passed between them. An understanding. The attack came at midnight station time. Taman was ready. He had sent Hana and the rest of the delegation through maintenance tunnels 2 hours earlier. Minyo had protested, wanting to stay and fight, but Taman had been firm. This wasn't their battle. They were diplomats and support staff. What was about to happen required different skills. The door to the human quarters exploded inward. 20 Council security forces poured through, armed with energy weapons and riot gear. They expected to find sleeping diplomats. Easy targets. Instead, they found empty rooms and Kang Taman standing in the center, hands at his sides, perfectly calm. This doesn't have to happen, Taman said quietly. Lower your weapons and leave. I'll forget this happened. The squad leader, a large alien with too many limbs, laughed. You're under arrest for violations of Council security. Surrender now. No. The word hung in the air. Simple. Final. The guards rushed forward. Taman moved. The first guard went down with a broken weapon and dislocated joint. The second found himself thrown into the third. Taman flowed through them like water. Every movement precise, every strike calculated for maximum effect with minimum permanent damage. He wasn't trying to kill, not yet. Just disable, but there were too many and they kept coming. Energy blasts scorched the walls as guards fired. Taman was already somewhere else, using their own bodies as shields, turning their numbers against them. A guard tried to grab him. Taman used the momentum to throw the alien into 2 others. Another fired at close range. Taman shifted slightly, let the blast pass by his shoulder and struck a nerve cluster. The guard dropped. In 90 seconds, all 20 guards were unconscious or writhing on the floor in pain. Taman stood among them, breathing slightly harder now, but still controlled. His suit was torn in places, showing the scars beneath.
It's okay.
But he wasn't bleeding.
We got this.
He stepped over the bodies and walked into the corridor. The station's alarm began wailing. Red lights flashed. Automated announcements declared a security emergency. Taman ignored all of it and walked calmly toward the central hub. More guards arrived, blocking his path. Taman didn't slow down. He moved through them like a force of nature. Blocks became counters, became takedowns. Guards trained for riot control and detention found themselves facing something they had never encountered. A human who fought like every movement was choreographed, like he could see 3 seconds into the future. In the medical bay, Dr. Yoon Sarah found herself treating a steady stream of injured security personnel. They came in bruised, unconscious, with dislocated joints and damaged pride. But none were dead. None were seriously injured beyond repair. What did this? She asked one of the conscious guards. The human. The guard whispered, fear in his voice. The diplomat. He's not what we thought. Sarah pulled up station security feeds on her datapad. She watched in amazement as Taman moved through corridors, avoiding cameras when possible, disabling guards when necessary. He moved with purpose, heading toward the council chamber. On the command deck, Frexthal watched the same feeds with growing anger. How many guards has he disabled? 53, an aide reported. And counting. 53? One human did this. Yes, Ambassador. Frexthal's claws scraped against his chair. Activate the automated defense systems. Every military drone on this station. I want them converging on the human's position now. Across the station, panels slid open and military drones emerged. These weren't simple security bots. These were military-grade weapons platforms equipped with heavy energy cannons and advanced targeting systems. Over 300 of them began moving toward Taman's last known position. Captain Velmora of the Kestran Guard watched from a secure observation post. She was a warrior from a species that prided itself on combat excellence. She had seen many battles, fought many enemies, but what she saw now impressed her. The human wasn't fighting the drones with brute force. He was thinking faster than they could. When they fired, he was already moving, using station infrastructure as cover. When they pursued, he led them into positions where they blocked each other. When they tried to surround him, he slipped through gaps that shouldn't exist. And all the while, he kept moving toward the council chamber. A drone fired at him from behind. Taman dropped flat, rolled, came up with a piece of broken equipment and threw it. The projectile hit the drone's sensor array. Blinded, the drone fired wildly, hitting 2 other drones. All 3 crashed to the deck. Incredible, Velmora whispered. She pulled up his file, what little existed. Former military, special operations. And suddenly she understood. This wasn't a diplomat fighting. This was an elite soldier doing what elite soldiers did. The drones kept coming. Taman kept moving. He disabled critical systems as he went, cutting power to sections, sealing blast doors behind him, limiting their ability to coordinate. He knew station layouts better than most crew. He had studied them carefully. The way he used to study enemy installations, because that's what this was, an enemy installation. The council had made that clear when they tried to suppress humanity, when they attacked his delegation, when they refused every peaceful overture. Now they would learn what happened when you attacked humans without destroying them completely. A drone got lucky, or maybe Taman was getting tired. An energy blast caught his shoulder, burning through suit and flesh. He stumbled, rolled behind cover, and checked the wound. Painful but manageable. He tore off part of his shirt, wrapped it around the injury, and kept moving. He was close now. The council chamber was just ahead. The remaining drones converged, creating a wall of metal and weaponry between him and his destination. Dozens of targeting lasers painted him red. This was the moment. Fight through or die trying. Taman took a breath, centered himself, and charged. What followed would be analyzed by military strategists for years. How one human, armed with nothing but his own body and improvised weapons, managed to break through a defensive line of automated war machines. He used their numbers against them, their programming against them, their limitations against them. Drones were efficient but predictable. They followed patterns. Taman didn't. He slid under firing arcs, jumped over drones trying to block him, grabbed one and used it as a battering ram against others. Energy blasts filled the air. Some hit him, but he kept moving, driven by something beyond pain or exhaustion. Finally, he stood before the council chamber doors. Behind him, disabled drones sparked and smoked. The station alarm still wailed. His suit was torn and burned. Blood dripped from multiple wounds. But he was standing. The doors were sealed. Heavy blast doors designed to withstand ship weapons. Taman found the control panel, tore it open, and hot-wired it with steady hands. The doors resisted, groaned, then slowly began to open. Inside the chamber, the council had assembled in emergency session. They had watched Taman's approach on monitors. Some looked terrified, others angry. All of them were shocked. This wasn't supposed to happen. One diplomat wasn't supposed to be able to tear through station security like tissue paper. The doors opened fully. Taman walked through, covered in blood and ash and the sparks of disabled machines. He walked with careful, measured steps down toward the central platform. Nobody moved to stop him. The guards in the chamber had seen what happened to the others. Taman reached the platform and stood there looking up at the tiers of delegates. His gentle smile was gone. His diplomatic mask was gone. What remained was something ancient and terrible, something that had won humanity's wars in the darkness between stars. "We need to talk," Taman said quietly, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "And this time, you're going to listen." Rexthal stood in his seat, trying to project authority he no longer felt. "You've committed acts of violence against Council security. You've destroyed property. I've defended myself against an illegal attack," Taman interrupted. His eyes found Rexthal and held them. "You tried to suppress humanity. You tried to intimidate us. You tried to break us. Instead, you've shown us exactly what the Galactic Council really is. A group of bullies who only respect force." He turned slowly, looking at all the assembled delegates. "I came here offering peace, offering partnership. I tried everything a diplomat is supposed to try. Words, compromise, patience, and you answered with violence." Blood dripped from his wounds onto the platform floor. Nobody spoke. "So here's what's going to happen now," Taman said. "You're going to grant humanity full council membership. You're going to recognize our territorial claims. You're going to treat us with the same respect you show each other, and you're going to do all of this right now." "Or what?" Rexthal demanded, though his voice shook slightly. "You'll kill us all? One human against an entire station?" Taman smiled then. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "I won't have to, because 60 hours ago Earth Command dispatched a battle fleet to this system. They'll arrive in approximately 12 hours. And if I tell them the Council attacked their diplomat, if I tell them peace failed, then this station becomes the opening battle of a war you cannot win." The chamber erupted in panic, delegates shouting, some demanding to know if this was true, others calling for Taman's immediate execution. "But," Taman said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "I don't want war. I never wanted war. I want what I came here for: partnership, peace, mutual respect." The council chamber remained in chaos for several minutes. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded Taman's execution. Others called for immediate negotiation. A few quietly left, unwilling to be part of whatever came next. Through it all, Taman stood on the central platform. His wounds had stopped bleeding mostly. The pain was manageable. He had endured worse. He kept his expression neutral, letting them panic, letting them understand the full weight of the situation they had created. Finally, a new voice cut through the noise. It came from the highest tier, from a section Taman hadn't noticed before. The voice was ancient, speaking in a language so old the translator struggled with it. "Silence," the voice said, and somehow everyone obeyed. An alien emerged from the shadows. It was small, barely half Taman's height, covered in what looked like moss or maybe fungus. Its eyes were ancient, having seen millennia pass. This was the Oracle, the oldest member of the Council. A being that rarely spoke but commanded absolute respect when it did. "I know what you are." "Kang Taman," the Oracle said, those ancient eyes fixing on him. "I remember the reports from your colony wars. We have been watching humanity for longer than you know. We have seen what you're capable of when pushed. Then you know attacking me was a mistake," Taman said quietly. "Yes, a grave mistake." The Oracle turned to face Rexthal and the other delegates. The Draxian ambassador and his allies thought they could suppress humanity through intimidation. They believed humans were too primitive, too divided, too young to pose a real challenge. They were wrong. Rexthal opened his mouth to protest, but the Oracle raised one ancient hand and he fell silent. "Humanity is dangerous," the Oracle continued. "This is true. They wage war with terrible efficiency. They create weapons that frighten us. They expand aggressively. But do you know why they are so dangerous?" The Oracle paused, looking around the chamber. "Because they understand violence. They have mastered it, and having mastered it, they have learned to control it, to channel it, to use it only when necessary." The Oracle pointed at Taman. "This human fought through our security. He disabled hundreds of guards and dozens of military drones. He could have killed many. Instead, he injured none fatally. Even in rage, even in justified retaliation, he showed restraint." The ancient being's voice grew harder. "Can any of you say the same? How many of your species would have shown such control?" The chamber was silent now. Even Rexthal looked uncomfortable. "Ambassador Rexthal," the Oracle said, addressing him directly. "You thought you were being strong by attacking the humans. You thought you were protecting the Council. Instead, You have brought us to the edge of war with a species that has been trying desperately to avoid war. You have failed in your duty. I acted in the Council's best interest, Rexthal protested. Humans are a threat. Everyone knows this. They are a threat to those who threaten them, the Oracle corrected, just as any strong species should be. But they came here in peace. They asked for partnership. They followed our protocols, and we repaid them with violence. Captain Velmora entered the chamber then, her armor marking her as military. She bowed to the Oracle before speaking. I have reviewed all security footage. The human's actions were defensive. He used minimum necessary force. As a warrior, I recognize honor when I see it. She looked at Taman with something like respect. This one fights like the ancient heroes of my people. Deadly but not cruel. Efficient but not savage. Another delegate stood up, this one from a species that looked like living crystal. The Oracle speaks wisdom. We have treated humanity poorly. Perhaps because we feared them. Perhaps because we are used to being the powerful ones, but fear is a poor foundation for policy. More delegates began speaking. The mood in the chamber was shifting. Some still supported Rexthal, but others were reconsidering. The Oracle's words carried weight, and Velmora's testimony added credibility. A delegate from the Tralian Republic stood. I move that we take a formal vote on humanity's petition for full council membership. No more delays, no more excuses. Seconded, said the crystal delegate. Rexthal tried to speak, but the Oracle raised a hand again. The motion is made and seconded. We will vote. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership, territorial recognition, and trade rights. The voting took 5 minutes. Delegates signaled their choices through various means. Some raised limbs. Others lit up panels. Some made sounds. When the counting finished, the result was clear. 63% in favor. Humanity had won. Rexthal stood slowly, his scaled face showing barely controlled rage. This is a mistake. You're giving legitimacy to a dangerous species. When they inevitably turn violent, remember this moment. Remember that you chose this. And you will remember that you created this situation, the Oracle said coldly. Your actions forced an unnecessary confrontation. You will step down from your position as council leader, effective immediately. The Draxian Empire will be censured for its conduct. Rexthal's yellow eyes blazed with fury, but he had no choice. He had lost. He stormed out of the chamber, his supporters following. The Oracle turned back to Taman. You have what you came for, human. But understand this, we will be watching. Your species is now part of the galactic community. You will be held to the same standards as everyone else. Can humanity accept that? Taman took a breath. The pain from his wounds was getting harder to ignore, but he stood straight and met the Oracle's ancient gaze. Humanity doesn't want special treatment. We just want to be treated fairly. Judge us by our actions, not your fears. That's all we ask. Then it is agreed. The Oracle made a formal gesture. Welcome to the Galactic Council, representative of humanity. May your people find the peace they seek. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some delegates applauded. Others looked worried. But it was done. Humanity had its place among the stars. Medical staff rushed forward to help Taman, but he waved them off. I can walk. He turned and headed for the exit, his steps steady despite everything. In the corridor, he found Hana waiting. She looked relieved and concerned in equal measure. Sir, you're hurt. You need treatment. Later. He kept walking, heading back toward their quarters. First, we need to contact Earth Command. Tell them the mission succeeded. Tell them to recall the fleet. Was there really a fleet? Hana asked quietly. Taman smiled slightly. Yes, but it was always meant as backup, not as a first option. I just made the council think it was an imminent threat. They reached the medical bay where Dr. Sarah was still treating injured guards. She looked up as Taman entered, her expression unreadable. You need treatment too. I know. He sat down on an examination table. How are they? The guards I fought? They'll live. Most will make full recoveries. You were precise. Like you knew exactly where to hit to disable without causing permanent damage. I did. Sarah began cleaning his wounds. You could have killed many today. Why didn't you? Because killing should always be the last option, not the first. I learned that the hard way. Taman winced as she worked on a particularly bad burn. These people aren't my enemies. They're just scared. Scared people make bad decisions. That doesn't mean they deserve to die. You're an unusual warrior, Sarah said. I try to be an unusual diplomat. Taman corrected gently. The warrior is just who I used to be. Several hours later, Taman stood in his quarters, finally alone. His wounds were bandaged. The station was returning to normal. Earth Command had confirmed the fleet would turn back. Humanity's future in the galactic community was secured. He should feel triumphant. This was what he came for. But instead, he just felt tired. There was a knock at his door. He opened it to find Captain Velmora standing there. I wanted to speak with you, she said, as one warrior to another. I'm not a warrior anymore. You'll always be a warrior. You just chose to serve in a different way. She looked at him with respect. What you did today was remarkable. Not the fighting, the restraint. Many warriors can kill. Few can show mercy when they have the power to destroy. Is there something you need, Captain? Just to tell you that not all council members supported what Vrexthal did. Many of us wanted to welcome humanity properly. We were overruled by fear and politics. She offered a formal salute. You fought with honor today. That matters. After she left, Taman stood at his window looking out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, distant but always home. He thought about the person he used to be. The ghost of Europa, the soldier who ended wars. That person was still inside him. Today proved that. When pushed, when threatened, the old skills returned as easily as breathing. He could still fight. Could still be that weapon, but he had chosen not to be. Even when attacked, even when justified, he had used exactly as much force as necessary and no more. That was the real victory today. Not defeating the Council's security, but defeating his own worst instincts. His datapad chimed. A message from Earth Command. He read it, and despite everything, he smiled. Well done, Taman. Take a few days to recover, then report to your next assignment. The Corvin Confederacy is interested in opening diplomatic relations. They specifically requested you. More diplomacy, more careful words and patient negotiations. Maybe this time without anyone trying to kill him. Or maybe not. But either way, he would do what he always did.